Hello class and welcome to our brand new Mickey Mousecapade walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands. In terms of difficulty, honestly, Mickey Mousecapade probably one of the easier titles on the NES. I could be persuaded to give it a 3 out of 10, but I think bearing in mind the final stage in particular, that long stretch of getting to the final boss and taking down the final boss, I'm going to go ahead and give Mickey Mousecapade a 4 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to biting down on your controller, probably because you lost on that final stage, but don't worry, we got all the tips to get you there. Gary's got your boss beaters for tips on taking down the final and every boss in this game. Blaze has your items guide, and because this game is so very short, once again we're going to bring in Fluff right at the top to share some interesting facts about Mickey Mousecapade. Fluff?
Well, the most interesting thing about Mickey Mousecapade is the subtle but head-scratching differences between the Western and Japanese versions of this NES title. The game was initially developed and published by Hudson Soft in Japan before Capcom took over the publishing duties for the Western NES release, a foreshadowing of a long and successful partnership which Capcom and Disney would form, which saw Capcom develop and release several excellent Disney-themed titles for the NES and subsequent generations of consoles. The two games are almost identical between the controls, music, and level designs. The main differences lie mostly in the characters each version chose to feature for the enemies and bosses. While the attacks and patterns of the bosses are roughly the same in both versions, the Japanese version featured a lot more characters from the world of Alice in Wonderland, like the Cheshire Cat, Caterpillar, and Queen of Hearts as the final boss, which makes a lot more sense considering the ultimate goal in this game in both versions is to rescue Alice herself. In the Japanese version they make this clear, but in the Western version they simply mention the quest is to rescue a nondescript friend. It's almost as if they were planning on swapping out the friend to be Donald Duck or something before they lazily at the last minute said, "Screw it, leave it as Alice." The bosses of the Western version, on the other hand, they're a hodgepodge of random Disney and even non-Disney characters. The Japanese version is also considerably more difficult than the Western version, with Mickey starting with less health from the start and healing items replenishing far less health for Mickey. You can enjoy the differences in real time during this class, as we're going to be using cutting-edge, dual Let's Play technology.
Wow, we really are living in the future. Again. Let's run the intro. Alright, before we get into the game, Fluff, I'm told you have a cheat for us here on the title screen. What do you got?
Despite the fact that this is one of the shortest games to beat on the NES start to finish, not to mention the professor gave this game a relatively easy 4 out of 10, there's a way to make this game even faster and easier by way of stage select at the start. To use it, on the title screen, hold select along with one of the 4 directional pad buttons to instantly warp to one of the subsequent 4 levels after that opening stage. Before you start on the title screen, hold select and right to go to the ocean, select and left to go to the woods, select and down to go to the pirate ship, and select and up to go straight to the final stage in the castle.
Thank you very much, Fluff. I forgot all about that code. Used to use that when I was a kid, but yeah, we didn't mention that during our first run at this class, so glad you got to mention it this time. So at the start, you can already see there's a difference between the title screen on the Japanese and American versions of this game. The Little House versus the Fun House. As we take a look at the controls for Mickey Mousecapade, it does not get much more NES than this, does it, class? Attack with B, jump with A, pause with start, move with the D-pad. As we take a look now at the bricks notes for this Mickey Mousecapade walkthrough, the keys to beating this game: first, always be firing. Very important. Number 2, use Minnie's invincibility on some bosses. Gary will talk about that. And then in the indoor stages, the first and the final stage, stay on the sides when you're about to trigger that hidden object like we're shooting right here, just so you can take cover if and when a bird pops out to take Minnie away. In this case, it was a happy surprise. Speaking of which, let's bring in Blaze to cover some of the items we can find here in Mickey Mousecapade.
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky.
Alright, not a lot of items to cover here in Mickey Mousecapade. We have a couple restorative items first. We have the cake. This will refill a very small amount of your health. We have the gems, which will top off your health, come in a number of fun colors. We have Tinkerbell, giving us roughly 10 seconds of invincibility. This even takes down bosses if you're fast enough. And then the Mickey Mouse token, good for a 1-up.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Yeah, the invincibility can come in very handy. Remember, in our original class on this game, we mentioned where you could kind of mine for the potential of Tinkerbell showing up there for that invincibility. Of course, you got to roll the dice there in that final stage. You could draw the bird instead, which, again, captures Minnie, and then that's a whole ordeal getting her back. Talk about that on the final stage, but so we grabbed that first star early on so that Mickey could fire stars. There's one more to be found in a chest on this next floor right here to the left so that Minnie can fire them as well. And note, sometimes this will be an enemy hiding in that chest. Sometimes it'll be the star. We got lucky there, we got the star, so now Minnie can fire as well, and this will be very useful for this first boss, which is just around the corner. But that first Briggs note, always be firing. It's important not only for taking out enemies, but for finding these hidden spots in every stage where you can find a hidden gem if you put enough shots into that secret spot like we have right there on that painting. But we're about to hit our first boss, so let's go to our resident boss expert, Gary, for tips on the first boss in Mickey Mousecapade.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Alright, the first boss here in Mickey Mousecapade. We're going to take advantage of Minnie's unaccountable invincibility. You want to run towards the ladder and jump, and then push up. Once you clear the ladder, that'll cause Minnie to climb up that ladder. Keep pushing up till she gets to the top, and then jump again to ensure that she gets off the ladder. Move to the left, post up right in front of that wizard, and just start attacking. You'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Most annoying part about this first stage is after you do defeat the boss, you need to backtrack all the way back to the start and apply the key which we just got, making this funhouse objectively a lot less fun as far as I'm concerned. But you know what, let's check in with our Japanese version playthrough, see what that boss looks like by comparison. And there's that Cheshire Cat, just like Fluff mentioned right there. And I can see alternate reality professor applying the same strategy as Gary recommended. Holds up well in both versions. And they're making their way out with the key as well. We'll check back in with them on the next stage as we're about to finish out and move on to level number 2 here in Mickey Mousecapade in the North American version. Ocean is the first stage in this game which has pits, the pits being the ocean, so watch out for those. Gotta watch out for some major waves which come in and can kind of stunt, aside from doing some damage, they can stunt your jumps and kind of get you off your timing there, so best thing to do is kind of bait them a little bit before they come, then just kind of move back, or you can jump over them and hit the little jellyfish that comes out at the peak. Don't miss the hidden points here in the ocean level as well. Very short level, I have to say, by the way, the ocean. We can even take down the ocean itself when we have the power of Tinkerbell, which is nice. What's also nice is getting our next tip from Gary.
Boss Beaters.
Alright, no strategy at all with the crocodile. Just keep firing, stay low. It's not worth it trying to dodge because his projectiles can go very high, very fast, and are unpredictable, so just keep firing. At ground level, you'll take him down.
Good call, Gary. As we're headed to the woods, let's take a look at that last boss in the Japanese version. There's the dodo right there. Very nice. And what do they call the woods in the Japanese version? Just out of curiosity. The woods land. Alright, fair enough. Alright. So the objective in the woods and or woods land is to go through all 4 seasons, finding the sometimes hidden entrance to the next season. From spring to summer, very simple, just take the second opening, which is right here. And actually likewise, to get from summer to fall, we take the second door that we come across. Something to mention, be aware of, is when you jump over a pit, be aware of where Minnie is. Make sure she clears it, because if she goes in, you die as well. You know, sometimes you're jumping over a pit and there's an enemy waiting for you on the other side. Your instinct might be to pull back a little bit so that you just make that jump as Mickey, but then the consequence is Minnie might fall into that pit. And again, in which case you both die, so. Alright, so here in Fall, it's a little sneakier to find the entrance to Winter. And there's a lot of gems to go around, as you can see. A lot of hidden gems, a lot of enemies will drop gems. But the entrance is just past that pit right there, and then hit that tree. And that will take us to Winter. And then the Winter is the sneakiest of all. We actually need to cross the start line once again. Every one of these seasons will loop. We actually want to go past the start line again in this case. There's even a fake hidden entrance or exit, which is right there in that tree. So we want to skip that, keep going past the start sign again, and then hit this first tree just past the start sign after you loop it once. And this will take us to this kind of Spring 2.0. Watch out for the gaps as they open up here. Just make sure you're jumping with enough distance so that Minnie's going to clear that as well. Just always push through the jumps, don't pull back. Grab a 1-up from that flower right there. Again, plenty of opportunities to top off your health, but coming up on the next boss, let's go back to Gary for tips on this next one. Gary?
Boss beaters.
Like, the snake, you want to prioritize aiming and firing at this boss's head, and just dodging those projectiles when possible, like we show.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, distance works out pretty well here, so you can react. Kind of a Mile-on Secret Castle kind of vibe in terms of the strategy, but I digress. Let's take a look at the Japanese version for that boss. So they're going with the caterpillar right there, again, staying with that Alice in Wonderland theme. As we are on to the pirate ship, and alternate universe Professor is headed to Neverland. So the pirate ship is ridiculously short. It's 4 screens all total, that's including the boss. The key is just minimizing the damage you take to get to that boss in one piece, and then we can use Gary's boss beater to defeat that boss with complete ease, not taking any damage. But so just don't waste any time, get right up on this enemy without touching them, and just blast away with the two of you combining your stars. Same deal right here, you can kind of gap them, as you can see right there. What we got there with minimal casualties, Gary?
Boss beater.
Right, pegged like Pete, very similar strategy to the wizard. You want to jump on that ladder with Minnie and climb up there, and then just go to the right this time, get her right in front of Pete, just keep firing away, she'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary, and let's check in once again on the Japanese version. Taking on Captain Hook right there, as you'd expect in Neverland, as they deviate from the Alice in Wonderland a little bit. Neverland, Wonderland. As it's the castle versus the Queen's Palace now. So the Queen's Palace is objectively the most difficult stage in this game, because it's tricky getting Minnie to jump and move in lockstep with Mickey. Did I say Minnie with Mickey? Did I say Mickey twice? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. So the first thing we need to do is go up at that first junction, and we're going to be trying to get a key that we need to get to the final boss here in Mickey Mousecapade. And you got those like flying bird moose-like creature. I don't know, like a moose head with wings on it. They're very similar to the creatures which will fly out and grab Minnie, so that rule is in effect once again. You can leave Minnie at the bottom while Mickey goes and gets that key right there. If you do happen to shoot that secret spot and one of those birds pops out and grabs Minnie before you can leave the screen, remember, it can grab Minnie, but as long as you get off the screen before it takes Minnie off the screen, then you're fine. But, and you can see there was something there, but we're going to skip that, not going to risk it. Not going to roll the dice, we're pretty good on health right now, and don't need any invincibility as we're going left here at this junction now with that key in hand. And there we go. Sometimes you just find some cake, which is nice. You know, it's not full-on gem restorative, but every little bit helps. You can see there was something hidden right there. A lot of what makes this stage difficult is, aside from the many enemies, you want to seek out maybe a health restorative item or Tinkerbell, but you are rolling the dice with that bird showing up, and it's difficult to get off the screen a lot of times because, yeah, the exits are kind of awkward in the Queen's Castle, honestly. So, there's not a whole lot of screens where you're safe to kind of roll the dice, so where you still have enough time to react and get off of that screen. I'll take that cake right there. Let's try going to the right here. This is probably the safest one in the entire castle, just because we can duck out to the left, should we need to. And the spot is randomized every time. It might be up top with Pete. Sometimes it might be on the bottom, so ideally it's going to be on that far right side, so we'll have plenty of time to react. And invincibility right now would be nice for taking down Pete, but just see if we can, even if we get the bird, we can show how to get off the screen quickly right there, see? So it would have needed to get to the very top of the screen before it would have kidnapped Minnie. Tinkerbell would make taking down Pete a lot safer, though. Alright. Well, I'm not gonna beleaguer this. Let's just go for Pete, getting the headshots in. Daggers are very difficult to avoid. Guess we gotta do this the honest way. The key is just not to hit Pete, because he does a lot of damage. And this is gonna be rolling the dice as well. Pete respawns is the problem. That's why it's difficult to mine right here. You really are rolling that dice because we have nowhere to escape for the most part. These enemies just are here to be annoying. I think we're just going to skip it and ultimately rely on Gary to give us some tips on how to take down the final boss, which is Maleficent in this version. Well, I just gave it one last try. Let's take a look at the boss, the final boss in the Japanese version. All right, there we go. Now I'm feeling good. And there we go, the Queen of Hearts, as Fluff mentioned. But you can kind of see what the strategy is going to be like. Let's just give it one last shot, see if we can't get the invincibility. Yeah, if we go back through that left door, Pete's going to be there, and yeah, he'll deal out quite a bit of damage, as you would expect. Alright, I don't think we're going to do better than that. Yep, let's just fall back on Gary's boss beater. So for the final time today, tips on the final boss. Gary, take us home.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Maleficent. You want to jump over her projectiles in rhythm and fire just over those projectiles to hit her in the head where she's weak. Or alternatively, you can use the old standby of getting invincibility right before you head inside. It's a gamble, but it can take her down in one hit just fine if you can get that off. It's very satisfying. But just like that, you have beaten Mickey Mousecapade. Congratulations!
Thank you very much, Gary, and ending completely the same in the Japanese version from here on out. Just rescuing Alice. Of course, it made a heck of a lot more sense in the Japanese version, but there you go. Big thanks to all my TAs for helping me out today. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to Video Games 101 to enroll in these classes. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. We'd love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too, it really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Do you have fond memories of this game like I do? It's nice every now and then to cover a relatively much easier game on the NES, and still hard to believe that Hudson Soft was behind this one. I guess their way of making amends with the universe after driving us crazy with titles like Adventure Island and Milan's Secret Castle. Much more difficult titles, but that's our time. We'll see you all next week in the same spot for next week's class, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. and check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.
Please don't pretend that we're